They were the forest witches, with eyes that sparkled like stars and voices that sounded like whispers in the wind. Once upon a time, in a village named Olyowo, there was a man called Tunde and his wife's name was Adesewa. They were like the sun and the moon, always together and happy. But there was something they wished for dearly, a little baby to play and laugh with in their house. Tunde and Adesewa would look at other families with children and dream of having their own. They imagined the tip-tap of tiny feet and the sound of giggles filling their home. But no matter how much they wished, Adesewa couldn't have a baby, and it made them sad. One night, as they sat by the warm fire, Tunde decided to do something about it. He heard stories about magical creatures living in the forest, witches who could make wishes come true. So, with hope in his heart, Tunde went out on a journey into the dark forest. The forest was like a big, scary place, with trees so tall they seemed to touch the sky. Tunde walked and walked, guided by the stars and the glow of the moon shining through the leaves. Sometimes, he heard strange noises, like the voice of an owl or the rustle of leaves, but he didn't let it scare him. He kept going, thinking of Adesewa and their dream of having a baby. Finally, after a long journey, Tunde found himself in a clearing field with glimmering moonlight. In the middle there were 3 figures standing, cloaked in shadows. They were the forest witches, with eyes that sparkled like stars and voices that sounded like whispers in the wind. Tunde told the witches about his wish for a baby, and they listened quietly. Then, they said they could help, but they needed something special from Tunde in return, his most precious thing. Tunde thought about Adesewa, his wife, and how much he loved her. He thought about their laughter and their dreams of a family together. And even though he felt a little scared, he knew what he had to do. "I'll give you whatever you need," Tunde said bravely. The witches smiled, their eyes shining with magic. They chanted strange words that Tunde didn't understand, and a feeling of joy and hope filled the air. Then Tunde went back home excited. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Adesewa's belly grew round and full, like a big, ripe fruit ready to burst with sweetness. Tunde watched with joy as his wife's tummy got bigger and bigger, imagining all the fun they would have with their new little baby. Tunde noticed strange things happening after he asked the forest witches for help. At first, he felt relief when Adesewa finally got pregnant. But as time passed, he saw odd signs around their home. It made him wonder what the witches really took from him. Still, whenever he looked at Adesewa's happy face, he pushed his worries away and focused on their baby's arrival. One night, as Adesewa was nearing her due date, a storm raged outside. Tunde paced the room, feeling the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through Adesewa, and she cried out. Tunde rushed to her side, fear gripping his heart. The noise outside was like the noise inside him. In the dim light of their small hut, Adesewa gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Tunde's heart swelled with love and relief as he held his daughter for the first time. But his joy was short-lived when he noticed something strange about the baby's eyes. Her eyes sparkled like magic lights as days turned into weeks. Tunde couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Their daughter grew at an alarming rate, her cries echoing through the forest at night. Adesewa remained oblivious to the darkness that seemed to surround their child, but Tunde couldn't ignore it. Haunted by his decision to seek help from the forest witches, Tunde searched for answers. He ventured deep into the forest. There, he stumbled upon a hidden group of trees, where the witches awaited him. They revealed the true cost of their magic, not just a child, but a soul. Tunde's blood ran cold as he realized what he had done. He had traded his daughter's humanity for the chance to have a child with Adesewa. Tunde returned home with a heavy heart, knowing he couldn't undo what he had done. Their daughter, once a source of joy, became a problem. She grew rapidly, her cries piercing the silence of the night. Tunde struggled to contain her strange powers, which caused chaos in their small hut. The villagers whispered tales of the cursed child, always looking at her whenever she passed by. Tunde felt the weight of decision, knowing he was to blame for bringing this upon them. Despite his efforts to protect her, his daughter's powers continued to grow, causing fear and chaos wherever she went. Tunde's regret was regretting each passing day, but he couldn't give up on his daughter. He vowed to find a way to control her powers and undo the harm he had caused. But as the forest witch's laughter echoed in his mind, he feared that redemption would always remain out of reach. Despite Tunde's efforts to control his daughter's powers, tragedy struck their home. One fateful night, as Adesewa slept peacefully beside their daughter, a sudden surge of energy bursted from the child. Tunde awoke to screams of terror, rushing to find his wife engulfed in a brilliant light. He watched in horror as the power he had unleashed consumed Adesewa, leaving behind only a lifeless body. Tunde's heart shattered as he realized that his daughter's uncontrollable magic had taken the life of the woman he loved. Grief-stricken and filled with guilt, Tunde held Adesewa's lifeless body, cursing himself for ever seeking the help of the forest witches. In that moment, he knew that his daughter's powers were a curse that he could never escape, and that his actions had cost him everything he held dear. As Tunde mourned the loss of his beloved wife, a sinister aura surrounded his daughter. A spooky feeling was around his daughter. Her powers, unchecked and unpredictable, seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Tunde feared what chaos they might witness next. One hot afternoon, as Tunde was on his farm, a dark cloud gathered above his farm. A rumble of thunder sounded through the air, sending fears down Tunde's body. He looked towards his hut, where his daughter played innocently in the yard. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning shot from the sky, striking the ground near the hut. Tunde's heart pounded in his chest as he watched in horror. Flames erupted from the earth, devouring everything in their path. With a sinking feeling in his gut, Tunde realized that his daughter's powers had ignited the blaze. He raced towards the hut, desperate to save what little remained of his life. But the flames raged on, consuming his home and livelihood in a blaze of fury. Tunde knew that his daughter's uncontrollable magic had taken yet another toll. With tears streaming down his face, he vowed to find a way to contain her powers before more lives were lost to the darkness that dwelled within her. With his home reduced to ash and his heart heavy with sorrow, he struggled to contain his daughter's powers. Each day brought new challenges as her magic grew stronger and more unpredictable. Haunted by guilt and grief, Tunde's health began to falter. His once strong frame weakened, and his spirit waned. He knew that he was running out of time, that the darkness consuming his daughter would soon consume him as well. One fateful night, Tunde gathered his strength and made a decision. He would confess his sins to the villagers, no matter the consequences. With trembling hands and a heavy heart, Tunde stumbled into the village square. The villagers watched in silence as he approached, their eyes filled with suspicion and fear. In a voice choked with emotion, Tunde told them of his pact with the forest witches, of the price he had paid for a child, and of the devastation brought by his daughter's powers. Gasps of horror rippled through the crowd as his words hung heavy in the air. But Tunde's confession was cut short as a sudden pain gripped his chest. He collapsed to the ground, his strength fading away with each passing moment. As the villagers rushed to his side, Tunde's final words sounded in their ears. He begged for forgiveness, for understanding, for redemption. And as his life slipped away, he prayed that his daughter would one day find peace, free from the darkness that had consumed them both. As Tunde's life slipped away, the village fell into a somber silence. But then, a faint cry pierced the air. It was the sound of his daughter, drawn by her father's final moments. The villagers watched in awe as she approached, her eyes covered with tears. With a trembling hand, the girl reached out to touch her father's lifeless body. And then, something miraculous happened. A surge of energy coursed through her, a power unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. In a dazzling display of light, Tunde's body began to shake. His chest rose and fell with the rhythm of breath, his eyes fluttering open. The villagers gasped in disbelief as Tunde's life was restored, his daughter's magic breathing new life into him. In that moment, father and daughter embraced, their hearts overflowing with love and gratitude. They knew that their journey was far from over, but together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. With a newfound sense of hope, they set out to rebuild their lives, determined to leave the darkness of the past behind them. And as they walked hand in hand into the dawn of a new day, the villagers watched in awe, knowing that miracles were possible even in the darkest of times. The tale of Tunde and Adesewa, his wife and their daughter, served as a reminder that the choices we make can have far-reaching consequences, but it is never too late to make amends and seek redemption. And in the end, it was their love for each other that brought them back from the brink of darkness and into the light of a new beginning. So let us remember that no matter how dire our circumstances may seem, there is always hope. And with courage, compassion, and love, we can overcome any obstacle that stands in our way and emerge stronger and wiser than before.